And I happen to be in a position where probably of all the civil servants, the person who enjoys the status of municipal commissioner also enjoys the maximum authority, as I have seen over 33 years of service in government. The position of authority does not always accrue to a person on the basis of his merit. Very often it goes by the choice of those who are sitting at the helm of political affairs by luck and not necessarily based on competence, much less based on virtue. I thought that the reason why I am selected to be the chief guest here is that people sitting in these positions, like me, must be closely associated with spirituality. The main difference between God and Asura, Deva and Asura, is said to be that even though both are equally powerful, even Devas were required to fight the Asuras, and not easily. The Asuras were not vanquished easily. You see Rama and Mahabharata, you see Devi Sukta, Kali, Mahishasur. Take all our religious scripture. It was not easy to vanquish the Asura. He was very powerful as Deva. But what was the distinction between the two? Why I am mentioning this is that those who are placed in positions of authority and power may not necessarily be the instruments of divinity. They can be instruments of Asura. And it is necessary that a society which has to progress, which has to live together, that those who are placed in this authority are made to be associated with functions like this. Because they will not come on their own. I just invite you to sit somewhere here in the corner. They have to be placed here somewhere. And they therefore need to be inducted into spirituality, into the great heritage of this country, the like of which no country has. So that they are drawn towards divinity. Less and less of Asura within them, and more of divinity and God within them. I thought that that must be the reason why I am invited here, so that I shed more and more of what is bad in me and imbibe more and more that is spiritual. This country has always regarded religion as not confined to any caste, creed, race, language, for that matter, the race. If you see the history, long before Jesus Christ was born, we had spiritual exchanges with the country which was at the foremost in human evolution, that was Greece. There was exchange on the basis of absolute equality of philosophical knowledge. The great Alexander is said to have opened up again a channel which was there, but the conquest of the fights were not just between two nations, but it was opening up of a spiritual communication between the two countries. The people who taught spiritualism in this country, whether you call them Buddhists or whether you call them followers of Rama, went beyond the Himalayas in the north, went across the oceans to the east. And you have, unfortunately, now there are relics of the great metaphysics, great philosophy that took birth in this country, progressed, prospered, and was lived above all by great saints, sages. It's a living religion, if you call it religion at all. It's a living philosophy, living metaphysics, living relationship with God. In recent times, it was Swami Vivekananda who opened up again in English language with a modern word this channel of communication between the Vedanta or the philosophy of this country. I don't call it Hindu at all because the term is so misused and uttered by people in whose personal life there is no element of sacrifice, love, affection, devotion. I call it Vedanta, universal religion, Vishwa Dharma, Sanatana Dharma. That is how the Dharma which has sprung up in this country is described. It is not Hindu. And the sooner we get rid of this, the better it is for this country, for the philosophy of this country, the metaphysics of this country. And we will live greatly the preachings taught in books like Gita. So these preachings were passed on to the Western world because anything that is true, anything that is virtue, admits no bounds of nation, language, caste and creed. And we have thereafter repeated concourse, interchange between various cultures, more towards the West than towards the East. In His Holiness Radhanath Swami, we have another example. As I said, we do not believe in any barriers of caste, creed or race. The preaching of this country transcends even national barriers. Those who want to see God, live in God, are welcome in this country, can go out from this country anywhere and spread the message of love. The biggest contribution of this country to the metaphysics of the world is that all the world is one. Every human being is an incarnation of God. Every human being is an incarnation of God. Nay, not only human beings, Charach. All living beings, not only living beings, even non-living beings, they are all manifestation of God. And to the extent that each one of us strives in one's own life, it's not for preaching. It's not something which somebody follows by word. It is something which one, in contemplation, in quietude, by self-analysis, by introspection, discovers. This message, I'm sure Swamiji is going to tell us how we follow this path. And all our great saints and preachers have only told us, each one of us has to follow this path oneself. There is no ready-made solution. And particularly people who are most active in life are surrounded by all kinds of problems, all kinds of human beings, good, bad. Asuras, there are devas, problems which seem to overpower us, seems to cause great irritation, compel us to lose balance because you don't know what to do. It is for these people that Gita stands out as the great messenger, because Arjuna was precisely placed in a position in which most of us, and particularly those who wield authority, wield power, maybe of money, maybe handling of human beings, maybe authority, all these people are faced with crisis every moment. Am I doing the right thing? After all, gifted or bestowed with human limitation, mind, brain, reasoning, all these are limited faculties. And every decision taken is liable to be a mistake. And yet you are required to take decisions. And how do you take decisions? This was the problem. Before Arjuna, the great fighter, the leader of all great people in terms of material activities. And it was easy for Sri Krishna to say, wonderful, now you are tired of life. This is what life is. You will face evil around you, crooked people around you, people who do not discriminate between virtue and vice. Get out of this. Easy moment to get out of it. Start peace, prayer, away and away and away. And let the world continue in its crookedness. But this is not what Gita has told us. As a student of Gita, I was a student of philosophy. preached, rather taught philosophy for a short while, and have read Gita practically every day for some time, to draw continuous sustenance from that great teaching which is applicable to each one of us, more to those who face crisis every moment. Swami Radhanath Swami, like all of us, passed through great crisis. Early in his life, he found everything frustrating, not giving satisfaction. This is not what I want in life. You touch everything and you start feeling, oh, this is not the real happiness I get. He moved about through various parts of the world, studied Islam, studied Christianity, studied Buddhism, went to Nepal, contemplated anything that would give him satisfaction. Till he found in the philosophy of Gita, Vedanta, permanent solace of life. It is not necessary that person who practices Gita, who is devoted to Lord Krishna, who is seated in the heart of all of us, only if we call him, if we awaken him, that he must renounce. That the Swamiji is renounced. Person, sannyasin, is a different situation because he has accepted the life of a preacher who has sacrificed everything. But this is not what he is going to preach us, I am sure. He would rather say, and all of us, I am sure will agree, that is the people like Arvind Bhai, who lead a great industrial concern and yet maintain a reputation of high integrity, devotion, and above all, whatever is earned, whatever is achieved, is surrendered, dedicated to the great Lord who is seated all over in one's heart and around. With these words, I invoke Swamiji that you please bless us with your sermon on Gita. Thank you.
I'm indeed grateful for those words of wisdom. We also are strictly believers of Vedic Sanatana Dharma. The word Hindu, incidentally, is an Arabic word, connotation for Sindhu, river, people living on this eastern side. Now, instead of my getting into philosophy, I would like to introduce my very good friend and philosopher and guide, Radhanath Swami, who will give us a lecture on what is true religion. After this, we have a question and answer period where members from the audience are free to ask questions related to this lecture or if they have anything else. And then we have prasadam which will be served. This should be by about 8:30, 9 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Satyam param dhimahi dharma Jitakaitavatra Paramanyamatsataranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Srivatanta Patrayo Munam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamune Krite Hinga Parayurishvara Sadhya Hridya Varujate Tri Prithvi Sususadat Chakshana Nigamakalpatarogalipam Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narotaram Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutiraye Munaya Surukrishtoham Avadmir Loka Mangalam Yakripa Krishna Samprasno Yenatma Suprasidati Srinvatam Swakatam Krishna Punyasra Lakirkana Prityantasto Yamadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam Nasta Praishya Bhavreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasvese Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Katha Pungir Vichastreshtash Varanashvamadapagasha Svanushtatasya Dharmasya Samsadir Haritoshanam Shushushoshadadhanasya Vasudeva Kataduchi Syanmahatsivaya Vipra Unyatirtana Sevana Om Adyanjanirandasya Yananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachagam Pangundam Nayate Yatripaktamaham Vande Sri Gurun Dinataranam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Recently, I was giving a lecture on the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita in one of the major universities of the United States of America. And one very intelligent graduate student, at the end of my class, became very disturbed in mind. And he raised his hand, and he inquired, in a very challenging spirit, you are talking about the solutions to the problems of the world. And there are so many problems in this world. And you are trying to convince us that the real cure to the diseases in society is religion. But as far as I am concerned, the greatest disease and the impetus that is causing the worst problems in the world is religion. I am a practical man, he acclaimed. I have to see what's before my eyes. Look at the condition of the world today. In Sri Lanka, there is bloodshed, violence, and hate between the Buddhists and the Hindus. In India,